I've been on two wheels forever and three wheels before that. And whether you ride bicycles, which I used to race, or motorcycles, which I test on a regular basis, you have a choice between riding on paved public roads or off the beaten path on dirt roads and trails. And I like to do both. But how do these two domains compare, and which one is better, more fun, more practical, and more rewarding? Stay tuned for a comprehensive breakdown. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with friends. First of all, I live in Canada, and that is relevant because here, as in most well-to-do Western countries, motorcycling is a hobby and a recreational activity. So I'm coming at this topic from that perspective. Not from the perspective of someone from a warm country who lives in a crowded city and for whom riding into work on tight, crowded roads is an everyday necessity. For me, riding is an option, so if I have a day to do it, which do I choose and why? First, let's take a look at the advantages of riding on pavement, probably the place most riders spend most of their time. For one, it's practical. You can actually get somewhere on a motorcycle for a given purpose. Whether it's commuting, running errands, or going for a shopping trip, riding a motorcycle turns mundane, everyday tasks into engaging and fun experiences. If you don't want to be bored out of your mind on your everyday comings and goings, ride a bike. I wish there was a dirt trail leading to where I work so I could ride my dirt bike there, but that just doesn't happen. Most times you have to cart the dirt bike to the trail, but with a road motorcycle you can start riding right out the door. In addition to being practical transportation, motorcycling also tends to be faster. Some localities have legalized filtering and lane splitting, which gives motorcycles a huge advantage over cars in crowded urban spaces. Even without these laws, motorcycles have an inherent advantage in being able to squeeze through tight spots and bypass heavily trafficked zones. As well, motorcycles provide the best bang for the buck performance on pavement. Most $15,000 sport and naked bikes can out-accelerate and outrun most $150,000 sports cars, and in addition to being quicker, require more technique to ride fast around corners. It takes a lot more skill and is a lot more rewarding to be good at riding motorcycles fast than being able to drive cars fast. There's more going on, and it both requires more guts and is more thrilling. With motorcycles, the performance and thrill per dollar far exceeds cars. However, riding motorcycles on the pavement comes with its disadvantages as well, and the number one disadvantage is the danger. Per mile of riding, you are 24 times more likely to get killed riding a motorcycle than driving a car. Yep, that's a sobering stat that motorcyclists don't like to talk about. But when you're not surrounded by a cage, you are more vulnerable. Now there are of course dangers to dirt biking, and riders doing that can also be killed in an accident. But the chances of suffering a serious accident are greater on pavement for two reasons. One, people often ride motorcycles for the thrill they provide, and on pavement that thrill comes from speed and stunts. One thing to consider is the status of your license and how quickly you'll lose it if you're caught doing 3 times the speed limit on a public road. Pavement thrills on a motorcycle almost always come with the risk of legal consequences. And when people ride for thrills, they do things like try to drag a knee around an on-ramp on the highway, or pop a wheelie on a public road, or try to hit their bike's top speed. In each case, they are traveling a lot faster on the road than on the trail, and so the consequences of a get-off are greater. Also, pavement is hard, and going down hard on it hurts more than going down on many dirt surfaces. I've been down on dirt plenty of times, got up, dusted myself off, and kept going. A pavement crash, on average, tends to result in more damage to you, your clothing, and your bike. Of course, there are exceptions, but I would rather crash on dirt every day of the week. The second big reason for danger on the pavement is the presence of cars around you. Many roads are crowded, and riders risk being hit by cars either when riding or after they fall. Most trails are not very busy, and even if you are riding tightly with a group of other dirt bikes, I'd rather get run over by a 250-pound dirt bike than a 5,000-pound F-150. So there are definitely advantages to riding on dirt. Less traffic, slower speeds, softer surfaces to land on, unless you land on rocks, and just a general sense of chill on the ride. You don't have to prove anything to anybody, and you don't have to speed for the ride to be fun. On dirt, especially the gnarlier trails, the sense of accomplishment comes from being able to navigate rough terrain and get through. You don't have to do it fast. It's more about keeping the bike upright and not putting a foot down rather than breaking records. And you're out in nature. Maybe this is my own bias, but I like being out in the middle of nowhere by myself. It's good for decluttering the brain and commuting with nature. I'd rather be looking at forest, mountain, or lake than buildings and pedestrians. Of course, you can see beautiful sights from a paved road too, but chances are, if it's that good looking, there will be other vehicles around you enjoying the sights as well, and you have to be aware of them and keep moving with the traffic. On a secluded trail, you can stop anytime and just take it all in. And on dirt, your patience is never tested by being stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic as your inner thighs cook during a summer heat wave. Also, one of the coolest experiences a motorcyclist can have is riding a secluded piece of single track where all of your attention is focused on the next corner and obstacle coming up. This is meditative and leaves the rider with no room to worry about anything other than navigating the trail, leaving behind every other worry in your life. When you hit flow state on a trail, it is a transcendent experience and is intensely rewarding when you get to the end. You can have the same feeling after conquering a twisty bit of pavement as well, but I've always found that experience a lot more nerve-wracking, perhaps because I worry about other vehicles, getting a ticket, or just the fact that I'm going so much faster the consequences of a fall are magnified. Again, it's my own bias shining through, but I've always flowed better on dirt than on pavement. It's a place where you can test your limits as a rider without putting yourself in as much danger as on pavement. So by now you can probably tell my off-road bias, but even I have to admit that dirt biking has its own drawbacks. One, it's less practical than road riding. If you want to ride a true dirt bike, something light and built exclusively for the trail, you will most often have to cart it to the trail. Most dirt bikes are not road legal, and those that are not great on the roads at the best of times. The gearing is low, the gas tanks are small, the geometry and suspension are suited for rough terrain, and the tires wear fast on paved roads. Dirt bikes are for riding trails, not for commuting to work or shopping. And although on average you will suffer less damage in a fall, you tend to fall a lot more often, especially if you ride challenging terrain. And if you're like me and you enjoy riding by yourself in remote places, you may suffer a hard fall and serious injury on a trail that may not see another passerby in a week or two. No one is going to be stopping and calling in an ambulance for you, and by the time you are found, you may have become food for the local animal population. And yes, I know you are supposed to ride with a buddy on more challenging trails, but the reality of the situation is that your buddies might all be working or be otherwise not available when you have time to go for a ride. Sometimes I have to film a video and don't have the luxury of having someone to ride with. The window I have available doesn't necessarily overlap with my riding buddies. The world is not an ideal place and we have to take calculated risks in our lives. If we weren't into risks, we wouldn't ride motorcycles. So, it must be pretty obvious by now that given a few free hours, I'll choose a dirt ride over a road ride any day. However, I can also see the advantages and practicality of riding on pavement. And it is perhaps the existence of these two worlds which accounts for the popularity of dual sports and adventure bikes these days. The first are dirt bikes that can do some pavement, and the second are road bikes with dirt capability. My Tenere 700 is decent in both worlds, and my WR250F is all the bike I need for the trails. But I'm curious, what kind of riding do you prefer and why? And further, what is the best bike for your kind of riding? Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Ride safe, check out some of these other videos you may enjoy, and may the spokes be with you.